With 2024 coming to a close and stats coming out, we thought we'd do a year in review about the real estate market.
You're going to be surprised, or maybe you won't be, but we had a pretty slow year overall.
Yeah, I've heard multiple stats, but the one that seems to keep ringing through 2024 was the slowest year in real estate on a national level since 2010. We'll get started just by diving into some stats with help from our office dog, Odie here, about minor areas and what prices did over the year.
So let's start with Bozeman, Montana.
Starting with Bozeman, single-family home prices on median $925 for 2024, townhomes and condos $535.
So overall in the Bozeman market, because interest rates have been so high, this is a theme you're going to hear throughout this video, but because interest rates were so high throughout 2024, most of the homes that were priced over that 1 million to 1.2 million, those were the homes that were selling because interest rates don't matter to that type of buyer. Everything below that price point, however, those people tend to get mortgages and rely on the interest rates, and because they were so high, that put them out of the game for last year.
Yeah, honestly, anything above that conforming loan limit, which we'll go into in another video, anything above that, once you start getting into jumbo loans, more people will pay cash, at least here in the Bozeman area, for those homes than going into a non-conforming loan at a high price.
All right, so let's move on to the city of Belgrade, which is actually only 8 miles away to the west of Bozeman, so it's kind of like the sister city. Again, because of the interest rates, it was a slower year than normal. However, Belgrade is blowing up because Bozeman's filling up.
Yeah, and I heard over just the main 3 going out on the north end of Belgrade, that over 9,000 doors will be added just as a result of those 3 subdivisions.
So Belgrade is obviously growing like gangbusters.
Definitely. Because of that, they say the further you get away from Bozeman, the more affordable prices are, as we've talked about in a couple other videos, Belgrade being one of the first steps. Single-family homes on the median sold for $605,000, whereas townhomes and condos came in at $463,500.
All right, so let's move to the next town to the west of Belgrade, and that's Manhattan. And this town is even smaller than Belgrade.
Single-family home sales in Manhattan came in at $755,000 for the median. Townhomes and condos, which tend to be pretty limited in Manhattan, but they do exist, came in right at $420,000. Manhattan is one of the exceptions to the rule about, prices getting cheaper generally the further you move away from Bozeman, with the idea that there are 1 or 2 subdivisions out there that have kind of a higher quality build home, newer construction, and then it still has some of your quaint historic charm in the main core of town as well.
Yeah, and definitely over the last 10 to 15 years, many of those original homes were purchased and updated. So again, there's not a lot of fixer-up opportunity in either Bozeman, Belgrade, or Manhattan. And speaking of that, let's move to the next town west of that. And this takes you about 30 miles away from Bozeman, and this is the town of Three Forks.
Three Forks single family came in right at $600,000 on median, whereas townhomes and condos, as you can imagine, in more rural areas, there don't tend to be as many of those, but those that did sell in Three Forks came in right at $500,000.
And Three Forks actually has a greater surrounding area, so there's the actual historic town of Three Forks. But then when you get a little bit outside of that, for example, where I'm currently living, I'm 10 miles south of town. There's at least about 3 or 4 other subdivisions that are outside of city limits of Three Forks, and that's where most of the building is going on now. However, from looking at the stats over the year, Three Forks was the slowest market that I think that we serve.
Definitely. There also tends to be less turnover in Three Forks. It's coined Montana's favorite small town. A lot of the people that move there tend to stick around for a while.
And the next large town west of Three Forks is Butte, Montana.
Butte, America, as it has otherwise been called, was at one point the richest city in the country due to its copper mine. It is no longer the case, but still gorgeous place to live. Tends to have lower price points, more historic buildings, a little bit more deferred maintenance as well when compared to some of the other areas we've talked about. They've really put an emphasis on maintaining that historic feel, historic integrity. So when buying a home there, you kind of have to be careful. There can be some hoops you have to jump through to be able to, flip a home or fix up any part, especially the exterior of your home.
So for example, the price point for a single family home in Butte is only $280,000, and the condos or townhomes are just below that at $272,000. And as Dylan has said, there's a lot of these old historic homes that have a lot of room for renovations and upgrades. So the opportunity to get in and fix up and increase the home value, get that sweat equity is very high.
Butte's definitely one to watch out for, especially in the near future. In 2024, they actually set a record for the highest rent increase in the country, which I thought was pretty interesting. They also have quite a bit of inventory when it comes to multifamily. Again, those could need quite a bit of work, but if you could pick one up for, the price of a single family home in some of these other areas, it could be worth your while.
Yeah, and I kid you not, I've had some clients that have purchased some of these historic buildings that are in downtown Butte, literally 4, 5, 6 stories high. Maybe haven't been occupied in a few decades, but they were able to pick those properties up for less than $300,000. Okay, so now let's move east from Bozeman and let's go over to that sister city, which is just 24 miles away. However, there's a mountain pass in between Bozeman and Livingston. And if you want to check out this video that we just recently made, we go into all the pros and cons of living in Bozeman and Livingston.
So pricing in Livingston, again, tends to follow the rules. It's about the same distance from Bozeman as Three Forks is, but like Adam said, there is a pass in between. Single-family homes on median sold for $557,500 in Livingston, and townhomes and condos on median were $350,000. Sales in Livingston were definitely down this year. Livingston City tends to, when it comes to addresses, include some of the surrounding areas, and so sometimes you'll see that number a little bit higher than it is just in city limits, because the homes outside of town tend to have more acreage, be a little bit more expensive.
In particular, we're talking about Paradise Valley, which is all the area south of Livingston, between the city of Livingston and Yellowstone National Park. Don't forget, you're only 45 minutes from Yellowstone National Park. One of the other advantages to Livingston versus all of the other cities we've mentioned before, Bozeman, Belgrade, Manhattan, Three Forks, is in Livingston, there's still the opportunity to get some sweat equity, buy some of those much wanted fixer-uppers. Now, I'm not saying there's a ton of them, but there's definitely more opportunity for them. Livingston is an old railroad town, and there's a lot of little bungalow-style homes on the northeast side. A lot of opportunities for fixer-ups, and to also get in at a much less price point than you would in Bozeman.
As with any home, be sure to get a home inspection. Even on new construction, I would suggest getting an independent, non-biased home inspector to take a look. Especially in Livingston, because it's an old railroad town. I've helped buyers purchase homes on foundations ranging from...
No foundation?
Yeah, anything from a rock stack foundation that your cousin Greg put together to railroad ties, full basements. Some of them are done really nice, but it's because it was a railroad town. Some of them got thrown up pretty quick.
Okay, now we're going to move south from Bozeman and we're going to head to the beautiful town of Big Sky, Montana.
Known for its high-end opulent homes, Big Sky is always setting records for Montana. Home to the new Montage Resort, Big Sky Ski Resort, which is continually competing with Park City for the fame of the largest ski resort in the country.
So as you can imagine, because of the price points in Big Sky, there's not a lot of sales that happen compared to a city like Bozeman or even Belgrade or Livingston. So for example,
yeah, they tend to be cash. They weren't really affected by interest rates. However, they are affected by the overall market. You know, people at that price point tend to do their research and be a little bit more hesitant spending their money potentially.
absolutely.
Single family homes came in on median at 3.15 million, whereas townhomes and condos came in just under 2 million.
And a lot of these homes that have sold last year, I noticed, were on the hills themselves, so a lot of them were ski in, ski out. When you're talking about square footage of these homes, whether it's a single family house or a condo, they're usually much larger than your normal single family home.
Another thing to consider when talking about pricing in Big Sky is that a lot of these resorts that you hear about, you know, Yellowstone Club, Moonlight Basin, they tend to have their own sales team and don't enter their sales into our MLS, so they aren't contributing to our data. I think if we added those, you'd see that price point even higher.
A lot of the properties up in Big Sky are just lot sales that are in the millions, and then they build homes after that. So now we are going to move about 90 minutes to the north of Bozeman and check out the capital of Montana, Helena.
Helena definitely follows the rules, has its own economy when it comes to the real estate market, obviously. Single family homes on median in Helena sold for $487,000 in 2024, whereas townhomes and condos came in right at $360,000.
Now this is what I love about Helena, is the price points there are still much lower than most of the cities in the state. And you still have the opportunity to also get in some of those fix and flips, because Helena itself encompasses East Helena, and also much of Canyon Ferry is also covered by Helena addresses. So there are some beautiful lake homes out there.
Definitely tons of outdoor recreation opportunities surrounding Helena. You know, plenty of room for growth. They're kind of the poster child when it comes to developing in a way that isn't too fast, i.e. Bozeman.
Okay, so the next town to the north of Helena is Great Falls, Montana.
My hometown. Great Falls is kind of cool in that it, you know, has kind of a blue collar feel. Doesn't tend to be as mountainous as some of these other areas. Has some awesome water recreation on the Missouri River. Obviously aptly named because of the 7 huge waterfalls throughout town and extending a little bit beyond that. You know, if you're just passing through, cool to go see. If you just have a day, have some time to kill, want to see some sights. Price points in Great Falls also tend to be a little lower than some of these other areas. This one actually surprised me. Single family homes on median in 2024 sold at $330,000, and townhomes and condos were actually a little bit higher than that at $335,000. There aren't a ton of townhomes and condos in Great Falls. I know on the south end of town, they did quite a bit of townhome development just in the last few years. I think that new construction price point is kind of what offset those prices. Overall, the real estate market in 2024 was slow, but
Stuff was still moving.
it's true. You know, I think a big part of that was psychological. The Fed teased us with interest rate drops so much throughout the year. And even when they did end up cutting their interest rate, it didn't have an effect on mortgage rates, really, which a lot of people were waiting for. And then when it didn't happen, kind of put a lot of their plans on hold.
Right, most people don't realize that the mortgage rates are actually tied to the bond market and not the Fed rate, but we'll do another video on that coming in the future, so keep an eye out for that. Well, we hope you guys find this information about the 2024 housing market in Montana helpful. If you have any questions, don't hesitate to reach out to us. Our information is below. Don't forget to hit the like button and subscribe to our channel. And if there's anything that you want to know about Montana, don't hesitate to ask it in the comments below, and we'll be sure to get that information for you. Until next time,
Happy trails.